Imagine you are sitting around a fire 50,000 years ago. Someone in your group starts screaming at things no one else can see. They haven't slept in days. They stopped eating. They don't recognize you. Something has broken inside them, and you have no word for what it is. Mental illness is as old as the human brain itself, and for most of human history, people had to face it with nothing but their instincts. What did they do? What did they believe? And what did they get right? Subscribe. There's a new story like this every few days. Here is the question that will haunt this entire video. We have found ancient skulls with holes deliberately drilled into them. Some of those people lived. They survived the surgery. But why was it done? That answer is stranger and more moving than you might expect. First, we need to understand what madness even looked like back then. Psychosis, severe depression, what we now call schizophrenia or mania. These conditions are deeply biological. They don't need a modern world to exist. Genetic evidence suggests psychosis has existed for at least 100,000 years, so every generation of humans has faced this. Every tribe, every culture, and every one of them had to come up with an answer. The very first answer was almost universal. Across every continent, the same idea. Something from outside the person had entered them. A spirit, a demon, a god, an ancestor's restless soul. This belief wasn't superstition born of ignorance, it was logic. The person you knew has vanished. Someone else is speaking through their body. From inside that worldview, possession was the most rational explanation available. And so the first mental health practitioners were not doctors, they were shamans. Across Siberia, the Americas, Africa, and Australia, the role was the same. The shaman was the one who could cross between the visible and invisible worlds. They could find the invading spirit and negotiate, fight, or expel it. This was not passive. Shamanic healing was exhausting, dangerous, and deeply serious. Some shamans reportedly entered trance states that lasted for days. They used rhythmic drumming, chanting, fasting, and psychoactive plants. And remarkably, sometimes it worked, not because of magic, but because of the body. Rhythm, social ritual, and intense emotional release are real psychological forces. We still use versions of all three in modern therapy today. The community rallied around the suffering person. They were not abandoned. That instinct alone may have saved more lives than any remedy. But not every ancient society responded with care. Some responded with terror. When a person's behavior became violent or completely unpredictable, the tribe faced a crisis. Small bands of 20 or 30 people had no margin for someone who couldn't function. Survival was collective. One destabilizing presence could threaten everyone. Archaeological evidence suggests that some severely disturbed individuals were restrained. Others were isolated, not cruelly, but practically. And some, in the harshest conditions, may have been left behind entirely. This was not unique to prehistoric people. It is a tragedy woven through all of history. Now, let's talk about those skulls with the holes. Trepanation, drilling or scraping a hole in a living skull, is the oldest known surgery. We have found trepanned skulls on every inhabited continent. The oldest dates back over 9,000 years in what is now France. And here is the detail that stops people cold. Many of the patients survived. The bone grew back around the holes. Some people lived for decades afterward. So why was it done? Trauma and headaches are one explanation. But a significant number of cases show no sign of physical injury at all, which leaves researchers with one haunting possibility. Some of those holes were drilled to let the spirit out, to release whatever had invaded the mind and was tearing the person apart. If this is making your brain spin, hit like. We're just getting started. By the time of the first great civilizations, thinking had grown more sophisticated. In ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, they developed detailed medical texts. The Diagnostic Handbook, written around 1000 BCE, lists mental symptoms carefully. Depression, anxiety, disturbed sleep, hearing voices, all catalogued. The cause, according to Babylonian physicians, was still supernatural in origin. Angry gods, broken oaths, the touch of a ghost. But here is the crucial shift. They separated cause from treatment. Even if a god caused the illness, a physician could help the body recover. This was a profound intellectual leap. Cause and cure could be decoupled. The same logic underlies every modern hospital today. Ancient Egypt went even further. The Ebers Papyrus, written around 1550 BCE, is astonishing. It describes depression as a physical disorder originating in the heart. Treatments included plant medicine, diet, rest, and spoken incantations. There was even something resembling what we now call talk therapy. Temple priests would listen to the dreams and fears of the suffering. They called it incubation. You slept in the temple and the gods sent answers in dreams. Priests wrote down the dreams and interpreted them for meaning and healing. Sound familiar? Sigmund Freud would not have entirely disagreed. Now we arrive at ancient Greece, and everything changes. Hippocrates, born around 460 BCE, made a declaration that shook the ancient world. Mental illness, he said, has nothing to do with the gods. It comes from the brain. The brain is the seat of all thought, all madness, all reason. He wrote about epilepsy as a brain disorder when everyone else called it divine possession. This was one of the most important ideas in human history. It didn't take hold immediately. Most people still believed in divine causes, but the seed had been planted. The mind was now a medical organ. Hippocrates proposed 4 humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. An imbalance of black bile caused melancholia, what we now call depression. The treatment was logical within that framework. Restore balance, diet, exercise, music, hot baths, conversation, rest in clean air. The Greeks built the world's first dedicated healing sanctuaries for mental suffering, places where the mentally ill could rest, eat well, and receive care. When you look at it that way, the Greek approach sounds almost modern. Social support, rest, nature, physical care, community. These are the same pillars modern psychiatry returns to again and again. But there is a much darker chapter we haven't reached yet. In ancient China, mental illness occupied a uniquely complex position. Traditional Chinese medicine, over 2,000 years old, viewed the mind and body as one. The heart stored the spirit, Shen. Disturbance to Shen caused madness. Treatment meant restoring harmony, herbs, acupuncture, meditation, correct living. This holistic framework treated madness not as failure, but as imbalance. No shame, no punishment. A problem of cosmic harmony to be gently corrected. In ancient India, the Charaka Samhita, written around 600 BCE, went further still. It identified 17 types of mental illness and prescribed treatments for each: psychotherapy, yoga, herbal remedies, oleation therapy, purification. Some remedies described in the Charaka Samhita are still prescribed by Ayurvedic doctors today. The oldest traditions and the newest research sometimes reach the same conclusion. That particular thought deserves a moment to sit with you. Now let's follow the thread into the medieval Islamic world and a quiet revolution. In 705 CE, the first dedicated hospital for mental illness was built in Baghdad, the Bimaristan, a place of rest, treatment, and humane care. Patients were bathed, fed, given music and flowing water. Their dignity was preserved. Ibn Sina, known to Europeans as Avicenna, wrote the Canon of Medicine in the 11th century. He described psychological causes for physical illness, and vice versa. He even described a form of cognitive therapy, changing the pattern of thought. This was 900 years before CBT was formally named. While the Islamic world was treating the mentally ill with dignity, Europe was not. In medieval Europe, the old supernatural framework returned with a vengeance. Madness was demonic possession. The church held the only cure: exorcism. The treatments ranged from prayer and fasting to things far darker. The witch trials of the 15th through 17th centuries targeted the mentally ill. Unusual behavior, voices, visions all became evidence of a demonic pact. Thousands of people with what we now recognize as psychosis were killed. The suffering person was not seen as ill, they were seen as guilty. This is one of history's quietest genocides, largely unacknowledged. The ones who could not make their minds behave, punished for the brain they were born with. But even in these darkest centuries, something gentler persisted at the edges. In the Belgian town of Giel, something extraordinary began in the 13th century. Families began taking mentally ill strangers into their homes as boarders, not to cure them, not to contain them, simply to live alongside them. Geel still does this today. It is the longest-running mental health program in human history. 700 years of community care, hidden in plain sight. We are now in the 18th century, and the word asylum is being born. On paper, it meant refuge, a place of shelter from the storm of the world. In practice, most asylums were closer to prisons. People were chained, displayed to paying visitors, used as exhibits. Bethlehem Royal Hospital in London, Bedlam, charged admission to watch the patients. The word Bedlam entered the English language, meaning pure chaos. But change was coming, from an unlikely place. In 1793, a French physician named Philippe Pinel did something radical. He ordered the chains removed from patients at the Bicêtre Asylum in Paris. He talked to them, he listened to their stories, he treated them as people. Many improved almost immediately. He published his findings. The world took notice. It was called moral treatment. The moral stood for human dignity. Now we arrive at the thing that has been waiting since those ancient skulls. Why do humans keep circling back to the same insights? Over and over. Community care, listening, rest, diet, meaningful activity, human dignity. Every tradition that worked came back to these simple ancient pillars, and every tradition that failed abandoned at least one of them. Modern neuroscience has transformed our understanding of brain chemistry. We have medications that didn't exist a century ago, imaging tools that see inside thought. And yet our mental health crisis has never been more acute. More people than ever are lonely, disconnected from community, unwitnessed. The shaman understood something our pharmaceutical industry sometimes forgets. The person must be seen. The community must show up. The illness lives in a body that lives in a world of other people. We have found the genes. We have mapped the neurons. We have named the chemicals. And still, the most powerful predictor of recovery is whether someone has people who care. That is not a failure of science. It is a confirmation of something ancient. Think back to that fire 50,000 years ago. Someone is screaming at things no one else can see, and the tribe moves toward them, not away. They don't understand what is happening. They have no diagnosis, no drug, no name for it. But they stay, and sometimes that is the oldest medicine there is. So, which of these two stories do you watch next? Pick the one that pulls you in and tap it now.